Hi, this is Colonel Barker, and welcome to another Starcraft 2 commentary. Today we're going to be looking at a game between MVP as our red Terran player, and Slivko as our blue Zerg player. We're on the map Metropolis, and I'm told this is a very, very fantastic game. It's a slightly long game, so I imagine it's going to be very macro heavy, but it is going to be a fun game. As always, I've been getting these replays from Gosugamers, and I've really been just looking for the ones which seem to have 10 stars, which seem to mean they're amazing, or, in other words, slightly hard to commentate. I've had some fairly good responses from my first 2 videos, so I thought I'd follow up immediately with a third, as you should do with all your expansions, and I thought, why not? It's going to help build up my confidence at doing this. I don't particularly know either of these players, but from what I've seen and what I've seen from the other replays, they seem to be very strong players, which is kind of fun. I hope you guys have been enjoying what I've been doing with this. I'm trying to make it sort of fun and interesting and different and quiet. The last one had some quite low sound levels, so I'm trying to adjust. I do love the sounds of the siege tanks sieging up and unsieging and moving around, but on the other hand, if you can't hear me, then, well, frankly, what's the point, And out comes the first scout. No, not first scout. Out comes command center first. Seems to be a bit of a trend going command center first, especially when you're working up against Zerg, as Zerg tend to like to go hatchery first, just because it gets that expansion up just that bit quicker. The more expansions they have, the more hatcheries, the more lava, the more drones, more. Here comes a little chase, the poor drone. And the SCV is just going to follow him all the way home. Here, along comes that Overlord Scout. That Overlord Scout. I love watching these kind of games where you'll see, just on occasion, someone will just follow back the other person's scout, rather than actually looking at it. I believe you can only spawn sort of cross-positional on these set locations in this map, but who knows? Who knows? Well, probably if I'd looked it up myself. Anyway, I don't know Metropolis as a map particularly well, but it shows a lot of the sort of standard stuff that you get on these kind of maps. And out comes the Overlord, just having a bit of a look around. However, after this command center, he's going straight for an orbital command. That's just going to help saturate the main with some mules. He's sitting not quite saturated yet. And out come these double barracks, which he's going to be pumping out a handful of Marines, I imagine, just for map control. Getting map control from the Zerg player can be something of a difficulty, especially with these queens, just putting their tumors everywhere. What's going on here? Oh, alas, poor SCV. I mean, the fantastic thing is, I think that the Zerglings are slightly faster than an SCV, but every time they attack, they have to stop and slow down. So I think he's going to make it, because he's going to have some Marine friends come up to help. Now, a very quick third, well, 5 minutes in, a reasonably quick third coming out for Slivko. I hope I'm not pronouncing the name wrong. I'm just going to continue to call him Slivko, as it sounds a bit like Strathco. So a third coming out for him, and a fourth? No, just a third. He's seen this expansion, this primary expansion coming out from MVP, and I think he just wants to stay one expansion ahead, and that's just going to help him. So, very macro focused from the first part of the game, and he wants to prevent any scouting, but I think MVP just about managed to scout that, so he knows that the third's coming out, so whether he decides to try and punish him for that, knowing that he's had to invest the resources into that, or whether he's going to use that as a opportunity to get another expansion of his own, I don't know. speaking of, it looks like he's going to use that time to get another expansion. So we've gone from factory into from barracks into expansion, and I imagine we're going to see a very, very quick, or at least a standard starport, and then we are probably even going to see a hot swap from this reactor, seeing the starport to come up with Debel Medivac, just so that he can go probably Marine Medivac, because that's a very, very strong build. Now, the reason for building the orbital so quickly here is so that he can use that orbital to put out as many mules, just to get the second base as saturated as possible, because I imagine he knows that, you know, primary base oversaturated, secondary base oversaturated. You know, his third base is getting saturated. I imagine he's going to move a couple more drones down. But this is going to be something of a formidable force if you have a look at the income tab. Yeah, Zerg player, well ahead, well ahead. So what's in the production tab? We have got metabolic boost coming through, some melee attacks, a handful of roaches, the baneling nest on its way out, which is going to be fun, which is always fantastic to use against Marines. God bless their souls. Their little cotton socks. And MVP taking out his third base very, very quickly. I suspect that means that Slivko is going to try and take a fourth. Is this going to be his fourth here, or is this just for scouting purposes? Very, very macro focused so far. Just a handful of little engagements so far, but nothing too big. Each person just working. Oh, speak of the devil. Here comes 2 medivacs full of Marines about to do a drop in the main. Let's see how effective this is. He sees it coming, drops, takes out an Overlord. Yep. Slivko returns by placing down some spines, but he gets this around and picks up, and he's out of here. Bit of not an unsuccessful drop, but not a particularly successful drop. And as suggested, here comes that fourth. Very, very macro focused. The advantage of having what, 1, 2, 3? No, hold on. Just the 3 orbital commands out already is that he can very, very quickly saturate the space with mules in no time whatsoever. No time whatsoever. And out he comes with stimmed up Marines and tanks. So we're seeing Marine tank armory, which is going to be, of course, for those tank upgrades, taking out that destructible terrain just in order to be able to defend this position just that bit easier. Very surprised Slivko hasn't done the same on his side. Another failed drop. On the other hand, he got picked up relatively fast. That's the problem with these Zerglings. No anti-air. However, we've got an infestation pit coming out, as well as Carapace level 2, very, very, and a Spire coming out, Hive Tech coming out at 12 minutes. Yeah, it's all nice and average, which is good. Just very macro focused. You know, getting this game, getting to 3-3 sort of as soon as possible. No one's being particularly aggressive. That doesn't make it exciting for games. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. And of course, knowing that MVP has his third base up and running, I think Slivko has decided he wants to get a 5th base. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, 5th base up and running. Now, I wonder what the response from MVP is going to be. I don't imagine he's going to try and expand again, because he's going to be sitting very close to supply cap here. Again, love the placement of tanks. Looks like he's going to push out Ah, exciting. Another expansion coming up. So it looks like he might be trying to expand up, potentially up north. No. No, hang on. He's landing his 1, 2, 3, 4th expansion and 5th expansion simultaneously. So it looks like no one's going to be moving. No one's going to be moving in a hurry. However, it's perhaps telling that that Slivko has his extractors up, the double extractors at all his bases. That he's possibly going to be making a Broodlord, or perhaps perhaps a Broodlord change in the not too distant future. Infestors taking out the Marines. Oh, those poor tanks didn't stand a chance. Fantastic on the way up, but as soon as we get to close combat, that's when they really get into it. MVK doing just a quick medivac marine drop, taking out some drones, trapping himself in the corner there. I don't think he's going to survive it, but you know, he's taken out a lot more than he would have done. And another expansion in the second, another drop in the secondary expansion. I mean, in these kind of situations, this is really what the Terran player needs to do, is just keep on dropping, keeps on hitting the expansion lines again and again, as quickly as possible. Just because that Zerg force is so fast and can be anywhere, everywhere, so many units so quickly. And trying to sit there with a big solid Terran force is quite a difficult thing to do. You know, that slow siege tank push. However, I imagine we're probably going to see a handful of drops in here. You know, speaking of, here's one right now. A drop coming in. I think he is going to scan and perhaps see what's going to come along. Or is he just going to wait? Nope, stemming up, jumping in, see what's coming, run away. Should have scanned. And, as expected, the first 4 Broodlords are out, which isn't great. Planetary Fortress for the 4th and 5th expansion. And another expansion. I imagine these are going to become, of course, planetary forces using command centers as static defenses. He really isn't planning on moving in a hurry. Of course, here comes that drop, just that harass, just because Slivko can't be in 2 places at once. He can't be in enough places to actually defend against this. However, it's just going to involve him throwing up a couple of spines, a couple of detectors, in order to defend against it. Again, more dropping. I mean, this is very, very frustrating as a Zerg player to actually defend against. You know, trying to defend against these attacks coming from every direction. However, in return, along comes the Broodlords, got Corruptors, we're 18 minutes in. And out come infested Terrans that is going to just mop up very, very quickly. Actually, I didn't notice what happened to this this command center. I hope it got cancelled off. This is what he needs to do. Come with these Vikings, use that to take out the Broodlords and the Corruptors, spread them out as far as possible. And a surprising number of Ravens, six Ravens. You rarely see Raven play out these days. And those depowered Infestors running home. Infestors, very, 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 very powerful units if used properly and in sufficient numbers. If you've got the macro for it, then you really should use them if you don't already. Yep. Ultras. Gone from a... that's quite a heavy Ultralisk transition. Already 6 Ultras. I'm not sure whether MKV is really ready for that. He's done such a transition to defend against Broodlords. So many Ravens, so many Vikings, and yet suddenly he's gone very, very heavily into his Ultralisks. You know, 2/2 Ultralisks at that. And of course now what he needs is as many Marauders and Marines as he can get his hands on. But you know, I can see the use of putting down so many planetary forces just so quickly. I should have a look quickly. I know there's action happening, but there's always action happening, particularly at this stage of the game. But I should have a look and see what the income is currently like. Yeah, they're both sitting about 2,200, 2,400, which is quite an impressive run. I imagine they're going to run out of resources in the not too distant future at this rate. Now what's hitting the production tabs? More Ultralisks, and in return, yep, more Marauders, more Marines, and we're hitting that infantry and weapons level 3. No more drops going on, but his but Slivko's base didn't seem particularly saturated. You notice I paused there. Out come more and more and more Ultralisks. I think we're gonna have to see a heavier transition from MVP in order to actually defend this. He's really too focused on anti-air, and that's just not what's coming. I think he's not seen that transition. Or perhaps he's worried the transition's going to come back the other way. Both parties sitting about 183 cap. It's all go, it's not stopping. I have to say, I'm very, very surprised Slivko hasn't sent out a handful of Zerglings to knock out either these expansions. I suppose they are planetary, but you take out the SCVs and they could very, very quickly knock out the rest of the expansion. Particularly with the main and first expansion pretty much mined out. Oh, you greedy, greedy man, Slivko. Look at that coming out with these second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth expansion. Sixth expansion. No doubt coming out with the seventh. You know, map control absolutely going to Slivko. And out comes this drop, double drop, and I see a secondary drop coming down here. So one in the main. It's not going to do a huge amount. There's very, very little mining going on. Along come the Corruptors. I think as a Terran player, the most important thing to do when you're doing drops is to drop in multiple places at the same time, just because it's very hard to defend against these multiple drops from multiple prongs. And 2 medivacs full of units can knock out a hatchery in no time, as you saw. And just pick it up. I suppose the trouble is that at the moment Slivko has the only anti-air he seems to have are those handful of Corruptors, which are somewhere, as is. And here he comes, 200 Zerg push, 3-3, including a handful of Broodlords, Ultralisks. A nice and dynamic force from of covering just about everything. Infestors, Broodlords, Corruptors. It's difficult to come up with a good offensive force against it. So, and rather than defending himself, he's actually decided to push out with Banshees and a handful of Marines just to try and take out some of this mining. And it's working too, because Slivko seems not to be pushing quite so much anymore. A handful of SCVs here, and some units being charged up there, but beyond that, I don't think he has a vision of the high ground, so these Marauders are doing remarkably well, all things considered. And bringing Queens out. 0-0 Queens. I do wonder if that's a bit of a mistake. And of course, dropping in the 4th expansion again, just to take that out. Very, very quickly indeed. I love this. This is some beautiful, beautiful pay going on. And the Banshees taking out an expansion. I mean, how fantastic is that? Another drop going on. I'm just having trouble keeping up with physically seeing all these drops. And there just isn't enough anti-air to deal with it. I think going so heavily anti-air was initially MVP's downfall, but it seems to be also the thing that's saving him. With the exception of the Corruptors, I imagine he's going to start coming out with a handful more Corruptors, but yep, there's 6 more Corruptors in production, and battle cruiser focus coming out, and 4 more command centers. I imagine, yep, 4 more command centers which are going to be used for planetary fortresses for defense. Interesting tactic. I thought about that. Another drop in the 3rd base of Slivko. He's all over this. Absolutely. MVP. Absolutely all over this. I have no idea what the unit's loss tab is going to look like. Surprisingly, Slivko, 10,000 points ahead. I wouldn't have guessed that. I've got to say, I would not have guessed that if I had been pressed. And two more command centers coming out here, which I imagine are going to be very quickly turned into planetary forces. No, orbitals. Both orbitals. I mean, I imagine that's perhaps in order to defend against any potential attacks, or to defend against any potential command centers being destroyed and then quickly being able to replace them. However, it seems a very, very strong force indeed. Going very battlecruiser heavy, or 2 battlecruisers, with 4 more in production, so 6 battlecruisers. I mean, we're 28 minutes into the game, and the macro doesn't seem to have stopped. I mean, it's been action-packed. Now, the drop here has taken out this mining base, so let's go through and see what Slivko has left for mining. His main, mined out. His first expansion, mined out. Second expansion, mined out. Third expansion, heavily oversaturated. And running out relatively quickly. So this is why the focus has been on the third expansion. The fourth one was taken out quite early on by that fantastic Banshee harass. And MVK taking out an expansion very, very far down. I think he's going to have a lot of issues trying to defend this, frankly, being so far from his production buildings over here. I suppose he's just going to bring down his main force in order to defend it. But it's difficult. Both armies currently sitting around 200, but they're spread so absolutely thinly and in such expensive units. It's not funny. It's very, very air heavy. I think that's perhaps the best response against Ultralisks. I mean, although they can take out your building, and they're very heavily armoured when they're 5-3, but just look how very, very quickly the battlecruisers take them out. And the Ultralisk comes into the main, and the battlecruiser's doing quite a reasonable job at taking it out, but not against the factory. Now, we're going to see a very heavy air push, I'd imagine, at this stage of the game, because really, if he can prevent the mining happening here, yup, out comes 8 spore crawlers. He knows what's coming. 8 spore crawlers. Again, MVP prevents, well, denies another expansion. And this orbital command being fed by delicious, delicious mules. Right. I think we're just about ready for the push. Oh. Dropping down. Are we dropping down or building? Building. Oh, that's incredible. 4 more command centers being built halfway across the map to be used, I assume, as planetary forces, as big turrets. Now, the expansion has not been denied again, thanks to those fantastic 3-3 Zerglings. So powerful, so fast. Absolutely insane. Now, this is brilliant. I've never seen anything quite like this before. Building command centers just as defensive units. So expensive, but also very, very strong. Now, these 3-3 battle cruisers should have no problem. I didn't even finish the sentence before they taken out. That's how much of a problem they didn't have. However, 0-0 upgrades for the spore crawlers. So, frankly, I think a push from the battle cruisers should be able to take them out. I know there's 8 of them, but look at this. Look at this. An Infester has taken over an SCV and is using it to build a command center. A Zerg command center. Isn't that just brilliant? Both players floating a lot of minerals, but both players also sitting at 200. It's very odd to see at this stage of the game Terran having so much map control when it so usually goes to the Zerg player, who's just sitting so corruptor heavy with 16, 20 odd corruptors. Oh, 20 corruptors plus more insane amounts of corruptors. And only 5 broodlords. I mean, the corruptors are really there just defending against the air. But with these ravens in play, I think a lot of that damage is just going to be nullified. Yep, I suspect MVP has just been holding off until those planetaries are ready. It's just going to be that slow Terran death march coming in, knocking you out one piece at a time. Moving along, dropping down. Now, this is what Vikings do best. They can fly to defend against air units. Now watch them jump up in the air. Keep away from those infested Terrans. This is one of the most insane games I've seen. I mean, I've said that the last 2 games, but this really is one of the most insane games I've seen. So, Vikings going to turn along, knock out those spore crawlers. Why hasn't he done these upgrades? Why not? He's got the tech for it. Perhaps he just hasn't noticed. There's a lot going on. But in comes the battle cruisers. 10 battle cruisers. But those corruptors are going to take them out so quickly. The ravens coming along. It's hard to describe it, but this is just fantastic. Vikings, oh. And as both players get down to about 150 supply, MVP just decides to pull back. I think he's taken too many losses at this stage, and doesn't want to lose that much against, particularly with the odd 20 odd infested Terrans. And another sneaky expansion here, as even the 4th base from Slivko begins to get mined out. But you know, very similar story for MVP. I'll just look at the income tab. Both looking quite low, but particularly MVP, who is currently spent just about everything he has. He's and has a pitiful income. I'm very surprised he hasn't moved what remaining SCVs he has over here. I mean, he has so many mules coming down, but it seems a lot of the SCVs have either died or been destroyed. He's just pushing out with everything he's got. He needs to take this. Slivko using his SCVs in order to come out with a command center, a barracks, and some marines of his own. Just, I imagine, to get past that supply cap. On the other hand, Slivko is now down to 108, 109. This Air Force has been fantastic, and a transition back into Marine tank at this stage has just been fantastic against those corruptors. Going so corruptor heavy was perhaps a mistake. I mean, it's easy for me to say. I wasn't facing tons and tons of battle cruisers. On the other hand, Slivko very much has the has the middle advantage here, and can probably afford to. Can probably afford to continue. On the other hand, he calls the GG, and that's the end. Well, thank you very much for watching. That's an incredible game at 40 minutes long, which isn't bad for my third cast. I hope you guys have enjoyed. And please like and subscribe the video if you do, and I'll keep going. I'll keep going if people want me to, and if you don't, I probably will anyway.